Okay, so in the previous example, we were exploring a little bit more of the use effect, and we even added a debouncing for filtering the attributes in here. So we have this nice thing. Let me comment these ones, fetching data from the back and using debouncing. So I guess something else, there is a couple things that we also can do to make this more interesting. And then, I wonder what's the proper way of doing that in here. Like, I prefer doing that in the console, but whatever. So now that we have done this, let's say that we want to like change the styling for this. So one way that you can do that is by adding Bootstrap. But when you want to use Bootstrap with React, there is a whole library called React Bootstrap. You can use Bootstrap directly if you want, but this might be more convenient because it's like more focusing on the standard or the style for Bootstrap. So the way you use that is that we want to install Bootstrap and React Bootstrap. We are going to have here the front end, remember? So I'm going to do that. Let's do -- save. So it is going to be the dependencies. Remember that we have two different package JSONs. So this is the package JSON for the front end. And now Bootstrap and React Bootstraps are going to be dependencies in there. And then you can import the components by loading them wherever you want them. So for instance, remember that in our front end, here in the source, I do have here my index.html. So I could be putting things in there directly, or I could come here on my, say for instance, my component. Here is my index page. And then in this one, let's say that I want to use like a container. So if you see here on the grids, we can use an example like this one. So basically, instead of just using classes, which is what we used to use in Bootstrap, regular Bootstrap, what we are going to do in here is that you just load different components from the React Bootstrap page, and then you just use them in here. So for instance, I could go and just say, please do this one, and then of course make sure that everything is properly aligned, and then the other one, I think just by doing this it should be so I have to restart the server, and then if I do that, then I have that one, and then I do that one, and I need to import the CSS. So for the CSS to work, I need to import these in like the main file that we have. So that could be done here into my main.jsx. And then if I do that in here, then now you can see that we have basic Bootstrap in there. What else? So let's start organizing things in there. For instance, let's say that I want here in my index page, I have these ones. So I could say that I want a row, and this could be, should I put that like maybe here? Yes. Should I? Yeah, that makes sense. So let's put this one in here, and then I'm also going to have like a column from this one, and then put that in there. And as you can see in here, in the layout for the grid, it would be more convenient to import. Oh, I guess maybe they want to make it like more lightweight. So I can do something like this, and then let's say for instance that I want to create another one that in this case is going to have, like, say for instance, create apartment or create listing for, okay? So I'm going to create another component that has that, and let's separate these, which will make them look nicer, and then I can create this one, and then I create a file for that, and then I do export default for the create listing form, and which is going to be something like this. And then if you see that in here, create listing form is not defined, and then I save that, then now I can see that I have a bunch of columns. And in the same way that you do grids using Bootstrap, I could just go and say in here, I want this to use like 8 spaces or 8 elements if it is medium screen, or if it is a small one, I want you to use like 12. And then for this one, if it is medium, then I want it to use 4, and if it is small, then 12. So by doing that, then we get a little responsive interface that you can see in here, and we can keep on improving on those elements. In the same way, like everything else, like for instance, the different forms or different things that we create in here, we can come and then see on this file. We can use like something standard like this one. I like floating labels. Yes, that's nice. So let's use something like this one, and basically I will be just putting this in here, and then get rid of that. I apply prettier, and then I have a form, and this is going to be an input text. And I think I do have 2 things in my routes. I have the title and the price. So here's my create listing form, and the default one is going to be enter title, and so this is the control, this is the protein, label is going to be title, I guess, and then I do need that one then. And then that's for that, and if you see like a regular one, then we should put this into a form. So as you can see in here, no, actually this way, and let's hope that works. Beautiful. So now, okay, awesome. So now I have that floating thing that I like. And then, for instance, just to put a little button, we can put the submit button in here, like that. And then if you just see this, then this complains because we don't have that, and then I can import button from that. So, and finally, we could have like an H3 or something that says create new listing. So we have that element. And since I want a price, I can also go and put another one in here. Floating input, the label is going to be the price, and then this is going to be an enter number maybe, and then enter price, and we have another one for that. So we have this one, okay? So, so let me show you how you can handle these forms, and so you can send them to the backend and everything. So the way we do that is that, remember, each component should handle its own data as long as nobody else needs that data. So in this case, we can go and say, I'm going to have a state variables in here. So I'm going to import use state for this from React. And then I'm going to say, this is going to be like a listing, right? So I'm going to have a listing and then the set listing. Usually we want to have this as a lowercase. And then I love what Copilot is suggesting in there. And then I'm going to use these listings to control and make these components, make them control components. So again, remember, a control component is one where the parent component is the one that controls the value and how it is being displayed. So hopefully I can do something like this in here, in which I will say the listing dot title is going to be the value that is shown in here. And if, for instance, I go and I say this is going to be John, then you can see that that's the default value in there. Again, this one it's complaining because if you're going to make this a control component, then you also have to say what happens when you change it. So, and this is going to be an event, and then basically what you want to do, it's something like what this thing is saying. I want to take the old state, so I'm going to change the old listing, and then I'm going to override the title with whatever value you have in here, okay? So the beauty of this is that then I can go and do that one, same one for this one, and then let's say that this is, for instance, like 100 or something, and then this is going to be price, okay? And actually, I am going to convert this one into a number, so it should have that specific number. And yeah, I can leave it like that for the moment. And then the final thing is that I want when the component is submitted, I want it to call this event handler. So here in my form, I want to do onSubmit and then call this one, which is going to call my onSubmit. And when I do that, I want to prevent the default, which is, and I love what it is doing here. I'm going to prevent the default because I don't want it to be refreshing. And then in here, I'm going to have the value that I want to send. So if I put in here something like this, and then I just go and put that, and if I click here, it's going to say what is the value that is one it wants to say. So basically, usually what you will want to do in here is that you will just do another fetch, and then we will go to the backend, and then on the listings, we will do a create, or like I like putting like a create, and then the method for this is going to be post, and then Copilot, it knows very well what to do. I'm going to add some headers that says that I'm going to encode the data as an application JSON, and then in the body of the post method, I'm going to stringify, send into JSON format, the actual listing, okay? And then for this to work, like for the moment, let's go and say if I do that, then that method doesn't exist. So I have to go and create the API endpoint. But before, oh, actually I do have this one. I wonder if that should be enough. So let's go and see. So now I need to create in here router.post. And I need to create one that is going to be listings.create, and the event handler, it's not an event handler, like endpoint handler or something, is going to be something like this. I can parse that thing, and if it doesn't get that, beautiful. So I like that, and the ID listings, yeah, I like that, that's very good. So basically, I'm going to be pushing that, like for the moment I'm doing this in here, but in Mongo you will be inserting, and if everything is correct, then you can return that the new listing was created or something like that. Like for instance, new listing created, and then what should I put in there? Like data, maybe? Something like this, okay? So when you do that, there is multiple things that we can do, and it's that, like this is going to be coming in here, and then if I refresh that and I do that, then this is going to be sending in here. Then it say that it received that. This one I should be doing like something like this one here, just to make sure that I get everything in the body. This is the post of API listings create, and then if you see here, then when I do that, it's posting in there, and but then you can see that it's not really appending in here. So, and we want it to be appending in there. So the reason why that's happening is because even though it is inserting, it isn't saving that in the it's not re-rendering like the thing. You can see that it's been actually being created in here even, but it's not re-rendering. So if I want this to be re-rendering, then we need to mess again with the states, because the problem is that I do have this one, and I have the create listings form and the apartment listings, and then the apartment listings is the one that was handling the effect and the listings, and I do need that outside now. So basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this state and the whole effect, and I'm going to send that to my index page. You could put that into a separate, here would be better. Hello from React, let's remove that. And then I want like one of those in here. Yes, so import use state and use effect from there. And then I have my listings. I do have a problem in here that I do need the query as well. So that is actually going to complicate my stuff because I do have this. So yes, we can go and lift that one as well, and let's put it in here. Remember, all your hooks should go on the top, and then the apartment listings should be receiving the listings and the query. Okay, so and I probably need to send the set query as well, and then here on this one we want to be receiving the listings and the query and the set query. Okay, I like that, and then perfect. And then one thing I want to do, and let's see if this still works. So I have that, and I can do like filtering. Cozy works, and this thing works, kind of. Yes, it is inserting in there. One thing that would be useful is when I submit this thing. Oh, by the way, I want to get the response from this just to make sure that it was successful. And then I want to do if the rest is not okay, well, creating that listing, and then I actually go and see what is actually happening. And then this is one of the things that is very important. I want to reset the form to the previous state, and then like I hate duplicating code, so default listing. Should we? Yeah, actually, let's make it as a function. Should I wonder where will be a good, like, let's go and do it like this default listing, and then I could put that in here, I guess, and then just have that to be my default listing. Hopefully that will work. And I think I screwed up in there, so let me try again. Why are you doing that twice? I only wanted you to do that once. So the default listing is going to be this one. Why are you doing it twice? That's silly. VS Code, there we go. So now I have that default listing. Yes, so I want this to be clearing, to be like whatever value I clear when I do that. Okay, so now it is inserting. And then here is the key. I want to be calling this set listing. This is for clearing, but then I also want it to be reloading the listings. But in order for me to do that, I need to pass that as a parameter in here, reload listings. In order to receive that in there, in my index page, here on this one, I want to pass what are my reload listings. Reload listings. And then the problem is that that reload listings is this function, which is hidden here under this internal function. So I could go and get it outside in here, and then this actually gets me a little problem. Ooh, this is very interesting. So this one is not depending on the query anymore. If I remove this one, it actually kind of works. That's interesting. And then let me see. Oh, but this one it could say. So, but there is a problem in here. Basically, one of the things is that every time I render the index page, these reload listings is going to get created again. So one of the things that you can do in React for that is that you can use another hook called useCallback. useCallback is very similar to useEffect. You even have like, when do you want to recreate this thing? And we can put that in here, useCallback. And then it's also going to take a second parameter that says, when does that change? And I guess in here, I want to have the reload listings and the query. And that way, and basically what useCallback does is that it memoizes this function. So it is only going to create that function again if the query changes, which is the reason why we are doing that one in there. So that works. And I have that one in here, that work. So I can go and put another title that says John, and now it works. Yeah, perfect. So this is yet another callback. There is also another one called useMemo that is very similar to that, but it's whenever you have operations. Okay, so I hope this is useful for you all. Please do let me know if you have any questions. I will be happy to take that in on Slack.